I never imagined my life would take the turn it did, but loneliness has a way of pushing people into places they swore they would never go. My marriage had lost the warmth it once carried. My husband was always busy, consumed by work, leaving me with days that felt long and nights that felt empty. I kept telling myself this was temporary, that love demanded patience, but the ache inside me kept growing. In those moments of silence and neglect, I found myself noticing him more and more, my stepson. He wasn't a child anymore. Time had changed him from the boy I had once cared for into a young man whose presence carried a certain quiet strength. At first, I dismissed it as nothing but natural growth, but the truth was different. His gaze lingered longer when we spoke, and I found myself listening more intently when he shared even the smallest details of his day. There was an ease between us that my marriage no longer offered, and that subtle comfort became dangerous before I even realized it. I tried to resist noticing, but my mind betrayed me. I caught myself remembering the sound of his laughter when the house felt too silent, the way his eyes held a mix of innocence and curiosity that made me uncomfortable in ways I couldn't admit. I told myself it was wrong, that these were thoughts I should bury, yet temptation has a way of making its home in weakness. Each day, that weakness deepened. There were small moments that became too significant to ignore. A brush of his hand against mine when passing something across the table, a glance that held more than words should allow, an unspoken understanding that hovered between us. I felt it, and I knew he felt it too. Neither of us said anything, but silence can be louder than confession. The truth was alive between us, even if it hadn't yet been spoken. Inside, I was at war with myself. I was a wife, bound by vows I once believed were unshakable, and yet I was also a woman. Lonely, unseen, craving to feel wanted again. That craving blurred the lines of morality. I told myself to stop thinking about him, to distance myself, but instead I found myself drawn closer. The more I tried to push away, the more I noticed him. His scent when he passed by, the tone of his voice when he spoke to me, the way he seemed to look at me not as just a stepmother, but as something more. Temptation became part of my daily life. I would lie awake at night, battling thoughts I should never have entertained, asking myself why the pull toward him grew stronger with each passing day. Perhaps it was my emptiness, or perhaps it was something far more dangerous. Whatever it was, it refused to let go. And in my heart, I knew the line between right and wrong was beginning to fade. The more I tried to ignore the pull between us, the more it revealed itself in ways that could no longer be brushed aside. He had started spending more time near me, not in a way that felt forced, but in a way that made it clear he wanted to be present. If I sat in the living room with a book, he would appear with one of his own, quietly choosing to share the same space. If I worked in the kitchen, he lingered nearby, finding small reasons to talk to me. His presence became constant, and though it should have made me uncomfortable, it only deepened the unspoken bond forming between us. It wasn't only his presence, it was the way he began to look at me. His eyes lingered with a curiosity he couldn't disguise, and in those moments, I saw not only a boy searching for answers but a young man drawn toward something he could not name. He began to ask questions that carried weight, questions about love, about trust, about what it meant to feel truly connected to someone. They were innocent in tone, but underneath, I felt the edge of something deeper, something that unsettled me. I tried to answer carefully, keeping my words measured, but inside, I knew he wasn't asking only for knowledge. He was searching for understanding, and he was looking to me for it. The idea should have horrified me, but instead, it awakened emotions I had locked away. Every conversation became a thread pulling us closer, every answer I gave becoming more personal, more vulnerable, as if he was slowly unlocking parts of me I had forgotten existed. Flirtation crept in subtly, almost invisibly. A smile held a little too long, a compliment delivered with a tone that hinted at more, a playful remark that left me both flustered and excited. It was dangerous, yet intoxicating. I felt alive in a way I hadn't in years, and that feeling blinded me to the risk. Each small step blurred the boundary further, until it no longer felt like a line at all, but a shadow that was impossible to see. Nights grew heavier with thought. I replayed our conversations, analyzed every glance, every word, every pause between us. I could feel his curiosity growing, and I knew it was only a matter of time before it demanded more than silent longing. The truth is, I wanted more too. That realization struck me harder than anything else. I wasn't simply a passive figure in this unfolding story. I was complicit. My heart, my mind, and my body had already betrayed the vows I once made. The moment came quietly, without planning, as such moments always do. We were alone, speaking in hushed tones, and there was a shift in the air I couldn't deny. His voice trembled slightly as he spoke about love, about never having truly known it, about wanting to understand what it felt like in its purest form. His words were not a question, but an invitation. And in his eyes, I saw the courage of someone who had finally decided to step beyond curiosity. In that instant, I knew we were standing at the edge of something irreversible. My heart raced, torn between retreat and surrender. Every rational thought screamed for distance, but every part of me that craved to feel alive again urged me forward. The boundary we had danced around for so long was now within reach, and I could no longer pretend I didn't want to cross it. The silence after his words felt louder than anything I had ever heard. It was as if the walls themselves were holding their breath, waiting to see what I would do. My chest tightened, my pulse quickened, and I realized the moment I had both feared and secretly longed for was finally here. I could have stopped it then, could have pulled away, but I didn't. Instead, I allowed myself to fall into the pool that had been growing between us for so long. The first step was not his, but mine. A glance that lingered too long, a touch that carried more weight than it should have, a soft acknowledgement that I was ready to give in. He looked at me with eyes wide in both surprise and anticipation, as though he had been waiting for permission he never dared ask for. That permission was now given, silently, in the way I let my guard fall away. The reality of crossing that line was overwhelming. Desire mingled with guilt, excitement twisted with shame. My mind screamed at me to stop, but my body refused to listen. His hands trembled, unsure at first, and that innocence only deepened the storm inside me. I knew what I was doing was wrong, yet in that wrongness I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Wanted, needed, alive. The forbidden nature of it only made it more powerful. For him, it was discovery. For me, it was escape. He approached me with a mix of hesitation and eagerness, and I could feel the weight of trust he was placing in me. I became both his guide and his betrayer, the one showing him what he had never known while also breaking a bond that was never meant to be broken. That contradiction burned inside me with every breath. As the moment unfolded, I felt the depth of his curiosity turning into experience. He was learning, and I was teaching, though the lesson was wrapped in secrecy that could never be spoken of again. My mind wandered between two extremes, guilt so sharp it cut into me, and pleasure so intoxicating it drowned everything else out. I hated myself for giving in, yet I couldn't deny the way it awakened something buried inside me. The danger of it all only fueled the intensity. Every sound felt amplified, every glance over my shoulder filled me with fear that someone might know. Yet at the same time, those fears made it impossible to pull away. It was reckless, it was forbidden, and it was real. I was no longer just a woman battling loneliness. I had become part of a secret that would never fade, no matter how much I tried to bury it. When it was over, silence returned, but it was no longer innocent silence. It was heavy, charged with the truth of what we had done. He looked at me differently, not as he once did, but as someone who had crossed into a world he could never return from. I saw pride in his eyes, but also confusion, and I knew I had changed him forever. I wanted to speak, to explain, to undo it somehow, but there were no words that could erase what had just happened. The truth hung between us, unspoken but undeniable. We had crossed the line, and nothing in the world could undo it. The weight of that knowledge sank deep into me, a mixture of satisfaction and regret that would live inside me long after the moment had passed. The morning after was the hardest part. The world looked the same, the house echoed with the same familiar silence, but nothing inside me felt normal anymore. I carried a secret that weighed heavier than any truth I had ever known. Each step I took, each word I spoke, felt tainted by the memory of what we had done. I wanted to believe I could forget, that I could fold it neatly into the past, but memories don't disappear that easily, especially not when they burn as strongly as that one. He moved through the day differently too. His eyes carried a new confidence, a subtle shift that made me realize just how much I had changed him. He no longer looked at me with only curiosity. There was now an understanding in his gaze, a connection that tied us together in silence. When he spoke, his words were the same, but there was a tone behind them that only I could recognize. I had been his first taste of something forbidden, and no matter how much we tried to act normal, that truth was written into both of us. The danger of being discovered haunted me constantly. My husband remained oblivious, going about his routines, blind to the storm that had unfolded within his own home. Every smile I gave him felt false, every moment I shared with him felt like betrayal layered upon betrayal. I tried to convince myself that what happened had been a mistake, that it would never repeat itself, but the memory replayed in my mind endlessly, a loop of guilt and desire. I could still feel the weight of it in the quiet hours of the night. I began to question myself more deeply than ever. Was it truly about him, or was it about me? Was I simply so starved for affection that I let myself cross a line I swore I never would? Or had something deeper been growing between us all along, hidden under the surface, waiting for the chance to break free? The questions had no answers, and that uncertainty left me restless, torn between regret and longing. He, on the other hand, seemed to wrestle with his own confusion. I noticed the way he lingered around me more, the way his silence carried weight when we were alone. He had tasted something new, something life-changing, and it was clear that he didn't fully know what to do with it. Part of me wanted to comfort him, to ease his unspoken questions, but another part of me knew that comforting him would only draw us deeper into a place we could never escape. In the quiet of my thoughts, I understood that what we had done could never see the light of day. It had to remain locked inside us, a secret carried in silence, because to reveal it would destroy everything. Yet even in secrecy, the truth has a way of living on. It shapes the way we move, the way we think, the way we look at each other when no one else is watching. That truth is now a shadow following us, and no amount of pretending will make it disappear. I betrayed my vows, my marriage, and the trust that should have remained unbroken. Yet, in that betrayal, I also gave him something he will never forget, the first experience of stepping into a world he had only imagined before. I don't know if that makes me cruel or compassionate, but I know it makes me guilty. The kind of guilt that lingers, sharp and unforgiving, reminding me with every passing day that one choice can change everything. Some truths are meant to stay hidden, but hidden or not, they never lose their weight. And though no one else will ever know, the silence between us will always carry the memory of that night, a memory that cannot be erased, no matter how much I might wish it could.